permeates every layer of the plane, and he becomes its terrible god. He embodies the divine, supreme ruler of this paradise. Thus is the plane of Phyrexia established, a steel hell, Dominaria's nightmare, and the bane of many in the millennia to follow. As the Thran civil war reaches a crescendo, Yawgmoth's opposition surrounds Halcyon and prepares a final confrontation. Caught unaware, however, by the eugenicist experimentations, they're thrown into disarray when Phyrexian warriors, creatures resembling humans but lost entirely, slaughter with abandon. Their improved attributes win them the field, and as the tide of war swings into Yawgmoth's favor, the Thran and Dominaria itself are spared the terrible fate of Phyrexianization when heroic efforts launch the Null Sphere into orbit and far away from Halcyon City. The Sphere was originally a Thran military operations center that controlled artifact creatures and weapons from across the Empire. After it fell to Yawgmoth, he stationed it around his capital city to protect Halcyon from the magical destruction unleashed by the newly developed Stone Chargers, weapons that generate blasts of pure mana, consuming all in a wave of desolation. With the Null Sphere no longer in protective orbit, Halcyon, the Thran Alliance, Yawgmoth's Phyrexians all on the field, and everything within miles are consumed entirely by the Stone Charger blasts. Yawgmoth himself is exiled to Phyrexia after Rebek severs the portal connecting his plane to Dominaria in the Caves of Korlos, the Caves of the Damned. This historical tragedy, the incomprehensible loss of life and progress, is forever immortalized in the saga The Fall of the Thran. The Thran are obliterated, the once glistening jewel of civilization, of ingenuity and promise, hopelessly lost. The fall of the Thran creates a power vacuum, the consequence of which lead to cultural and technological regression over generations as much as forgotten. Over millennia, new kingdoms rise. Dominaria's map is carved as regions like Zhalfir and Karandor assume more power, wield greater clout. This is the time of legends, and it's in this span that mythical figures similar to Heracles and Sun Wukong of our own history carve their names into Dominarias, endeavor great deeds, and cement their infamy. Individuals such as Dakin Blackblade and Gaedron Dihada conflict in vile blood feud. The dragon speaker Svitri Skarzam conquers through death and fire much of Karandor. The progenitor of the famous Carthalian bloodline achieves greatness and solidifies his family's role in Dominarian politics. Chromium Rule, surviving Elder Dragon, battles and defeats his family. Put simply, the time of legends is a period of uncertainty, of darkness and heroism in the aftermath of Thran collapse. Their artifacts and ruins remain, however, and call forth in whispers for the intrepid to uncover their secrets. Across the multiverse, ancient history is carved as societies rise from obscurity. On the plane of Arcavios, humanoids emerge at the end of the Dawning Age, in which dragons ruled absolutely through their mastery of magic. The elder dragons of Arcavios attempted to teach this wondrous but volatile power to the new races, knowledge that ultimately leads to the conflict endemic of the Blood Age. On Innistrad, due to blight and starvation, Edgar Markov develops the curse of vampirism to save his family. And the Eldrazi Titans are first noticed by Ugin the Spirit Dragon on his sojourn through the Blind Eternities. These beings are plain consumers, forces of nature that might very well be keystone actors in the ecology of the multiverse. In roughly -1500 AR, they are lured to the mana-rich plane of Zendikar and imprisoned by the coordinated effort of Ugin, the core lithomancer Nahiri, native of the plane, and the vampire planeswalker Sorin Markov, son of Edgar. This act sows the seeds of tragedy and violence that will take thousands of years to bear fruit. It also instigates the formation of the Royal on Zendikar, the plane's natural response to what it views as infection by the presence of the Eldrazi. And so it is that this epoch comes to a close with awesome and deadly events set in motion events of which few are aware, and that which none could have predicted, but nonetheless set the blind eternities on a precarious course. This is the Age of Urza, the most conspicuous individual of the multiverse, a man of deep motives, of flaws and ambitions, of great genius and even greater power. He is among the most notorious of all characters. His overwhelming presence dominates this epoch as we see him transcend to planeswalker status and toil for thousands of years in desperate grand strategy against his fiercest foe, a game that consumes him entirely and leads ultimately to his demise as he works in Dominaria's defense against the Dark God Yawgmoth's encroachment. But all this is yet to unfold as a young boy, unassuming and unknown, is born alongside a younger brother in the year 0 AR. Urza and Mishra, natives of Terisier, the continent whose kingdoms are born upon the skeletons of the now ancient Thran, trained from an early age in the skills of artifice and archaeology. With inquisitive minds and thirst for knowledge, their fraternal rivalry drives them to great heights as they seek desperately to outshine one another while beneath the tutelage of Tokasha, a master archaeologist. Tokasha's interest is in Thran artifacts, and she establishes several dig sites within the desert around Koilos to uncover hidden relics and ascertain wisdom. Urza and Mishra showcase their budding ingenuity by drafting prototypes of Thran devices, by improving designs and rediscovering lost means of labor and travel. We see such creations in the Ornithopter, the Onulet, and the Su-Chi. While surveying the desert, the trio uncover a pattern that leads them deep into the caves of Koilos, whose chambers are haunted by the echoes of the ancient Thran. It's here, in the Hall of Tagsin, that Mishra and Urza happen upon an item that forever alters their fate, and that of Dominaria's. The Power Stone used by Rebek those ages past to seal from the plane Yawgmoth and his Phyrexian horrors sits atop a mantle in the center of the chamber. The stone calls out to each brother, a siren whisper that draws them closer. They grab for the stone, and at once a magical pulse is unleashed. The pair are pushed to the wall, and the Power Stone fractures into two pieces, disparate but nonetheless part of one whole. This we see illustrated in the card Splitting the Power Stone, whose flavor text is full of foreboding. As the glowing stone broke apart, so too did the last shred of the brothers' bond. A terrible consequence of this action goes unnoticed by all. With the seal shattered, nothing holds evil at bay. Dark forces stir on Phyrexia, and Yawgmoth is once more free to exert his covetous influence on Dominaria, free to instigate a return. From this fracture, the Might Stone and Weak Stone are born, and possessed by Urza and Mishra respectively. These stones have great power, but they also have an insidious aura. Envy, avarice, resentment stir between the brothers. Their fraternal competing sours as Mishra and Urza descend to scathing remarks and paranoia. They seek the other's stone. Bickering grows into confrontation and ultimately explosive conflict as Urza and Mishra use their stones against one another. Caught in the fray is Tokasha, who tries to defuse their row, but whose life is inevitably forfeit. Horror strikes both brothers, especially Mishra, who cannot dare face the truth and escapes into the night. This quarrel is seen in the card's Brotherhood's End and overwhelming remorse. Neither brother can forgive themselves or each other for what unfolded, and the next several years see each man in separation develop into a genius, a wielder of power and artifice. Mishra ascends the ranks of desert nomads known as the Falaji, ultimately becoming the tribal leader after using his Power Stone to tame an ancient Phyrexian dragon engine named Makfawa. Urza, meanwhile, stations himself in the city of Krug within the kingdom of Yotia, marries into the royal family, and becomes chief artificer of a workshop that gains great renown across all Terisier. Resentment brews between Yosha and Falaji as flashpoints of contention erupt along the Suwardi marches, the fractious border zone separating these mighty kingdoms. After many deadly skirmishes,